Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Copywriting Secrets Masterclass, the insider's guide to finding the right words that make people buy from you no matter what you sell. Copywriting secret, make them more thirsty. So here's some rules for making people more thirsty. And you've probably heard the saying of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that is absolutely true. In fact, you can take a chihuahua outside to go potty, but you can't make her pee. And so you can get somebody in a position where you're trying to get them to do what you want them to do, but you can't force them to do it. But what you can do is try to make somebody more thirsty. And so the question is, how can I create content that makes people want to buy without giving away the whole story and they don't actually need to buy? And this is important for people that sell digital products. This is important for people who sell services. This is important basically for anybody who sells anything, because what you need to do is get people positioned to buy from you, but you also need to help make them more thirsty. So here's a distinction I think you probably have never heard before. And you probably heard the story, or you've heard the saying, stories sell, but stories actually make people thirsty, and sales copy tells them where to go to buy a drink. Now, I want you to think about that for just a second. Stories make people thirsty. Telling people stories. In fact, I'm going to be telling you 4 different types of stories you can tell people. But the stories make people thirsty, and then your sales copy tells them where to go buy a drink. So stories, when we're thinking about content and copy, which the only difference between sales copy and content is in your mind. In the mind of your prospects, there's really absolutely no difference. It's your intention that makes the difference. So stories can be actual stories where you tell stories about your life, your business, other people, anything that illustrates a point that you're trying to make. Stories can be case studies, where a case study is basically just a story about how somebody got a result. That's typically what a case study is. It's a story that has a beginning, middle, and end. I was here, I wasn't happy. This is what I did with the product, and these are the results that I got. It's a 3-act play. It's just like the hero's journey. I was here, I had a problem, this fixed it, and this is where my life is now. Examples can be stories as well, showing people how something works, how something was applied, how something was put into motion, and then these are the results that they got. And so there are also what I call the 3 M's of content. Now this is pure gold right here, and this is something that could potentially change your life, because what people are always looking for when it comes to content that they use to make people thirsty is, how can I give people a whole bunch of content that basically doesn't solve their problem yet makes them need what I'm selling even more and increases the urgency. And so the 3 M's are the stories that you can use to make people more thirsty. The first is a myth, and that is just dispelling myths. People believe a lot of myths, and you can create a ton of content, blog posts, articles, videos, entire webinars, in fact, entire books around myths that people believe and then debunking those myths. The second M are misconceptions. Now, misconceptions are different than myths. Myths are basically untruths that people believe. Misconceptions are where people have the wrong idea about something. So you can clear up misconceptions, and those can also be situations where you're helping people to just clear out false beliefs and you're able to help replace them with the right beliefs. And then the third M are mistakes, or I should say the third M is mistakes. And these are where you can tell people where other people are going wrong. And so mistakes are perhaps the most powerful of the three, because nobody wants to make a mistake. We have been programmed since we were little kids that if you make a mistake, you're going to get a bad grade on your paper. You're going to lose a question on your test. You're going to feel stupid because you are making a mistake in front of other people. And so nobody wants to make mistakes, especially adults. They're afraid of looking stupid. So you can create a ton of stories around myths, misconceptions, and mistakes, and really not provide anything from your solution that you're trying to sell. And yet people will feel like you have been spilling the beans all day long. And then another thing that you can create a story from is future pacing, which is basically where you explain to people, here's what life can be like if you take certain actions, which in the end, your product, service, software, whatever it is, will be the thing that's going to help them to achieve those results. But what you can do is paint the picture, tell the story of what life is like if they're able to do that. So an example of that might be future pacing with if you had your own book. I want you to imagine just for a minute having your own unique book with your name on it as an author. You can hold that book up. You can show it to people. They can leaf through the pages. They see your name on the front as the author. It doesn't look any different than any New York Times bestseller as far as the quality of the cover. And I want you to think about handing that book to somebody that you're trying to get to hire you as as providing a service. Or if you were going for a job, including a copy of your book along with your resume. Or if you are at a trade show and everybody else is handing out business cards and you're handing out autographed copies of your book. Think about what your life would be like. Think about what your life will be like when you have your own real book in your hand that you can give out to people. What will your credibility boost look like? What will your business look like? How will you feel about yourself? Obviously, having your own book is something that's super, super important and valuable to you and your business. So what have I done there? I have just told a story that just visualizing that could be on a Facebook post, that could be on a blog post. There are pictures there. There's all kinds of things. I haven't taught you how to write a book. I haven't done anything other than just make you more and more thirsty for wanting to create your own book if you haven't already, or creating the next book. So think in terms of teaching versus selling. Teaching is stories and content. Selling is sales copy. And you can use one to set up the other, and you can use them together. So you can use stories in your actual sales letters to make people thirsty. You can use them in your blog posts, in your videos. You can use them in your webinars. But you need to understand that the stories and the content make people thirsty. The selling is what shows them where to buy. So I'm going to teach you 4 ways to make them thirsty with content. I'm going to teach you 4 patterns that you can use when you're creating your content. And the first is, here's a free boat. Would you like to buy a trailer to get it home? I heard a story years ago about, and it was a sales lesson story. I doubt it was really a true story, but maybe it is. But there's a story of a guy that runs an ad in the newspaper that says free boat to a good home. And he instantly has somebody show up within 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning when the ad runs. And he shows him the boat, and he explains to him, yep, it's free. You just got to haul it off. And the guy says, okay, I'll take it. And the guy says, well, the guy who's selling it says, one more thing. I've got a trailer over here that the boat will fit on if you'd like to have it, and I'll sell you the trailer. And I've also got this outboard motor over here that I'll sell you if you'd like to have an outboard motor for the boat. Whoa, think about that for a second. They're still getting a free boat, but in order to use the free boat, they're going to need a trailer to drive around with it, and they're going to need a motor to help move it around. So what that means is that you can give somebody something for free and they will love it, but you can do it in such a way that all it does is set them up to need what you're selling even more. Let me tell you another example. There's a sales trainer named John Childers. He's a sales trainer #1, but he tells everybody he's a speaking coach. But what John does is he teaches, to my knowledge, the most expensive speaker training in the world. It's $25,000, or when I went through it, it was $25,000. And the way John sold it was, you paid him $5,000 up front. You went to his training, and then he asked you to pay him 50% of your speaking fees that you earned until you had paid him another $20,000. That was the deal. So John was an excellent trainer, and this is when this principle really came home to me. Was John would do a training to sell people into his training. And his whole training was around getting people to make money from doing speaking gigs. And one of the things that he taught you to do was how to create a high dollar product that you would sell from the back of the room when you were speaking. He showed you how to organize that program. He explained in explicit detail the type of microphone you needed to get in order to record your product. And he went into just great detail on the type of microphone, how to set it up, how you would use it, the software you would use to record your product. And what he did was he showed you how much money and how easy it was, and got very, very specific about how to create the product you were going to sell from the stage to make all that money at the back of the room. And once he did that, and it was real content, but when he got to the end, what did you have to do? In order to sell the product that you're going to create with everything he taught you about microphones and product creation, you have to sign up for his speaker training in order to learn how to do a speech in order to sell the product that you're going to create with what he taught you. Now, another example would be if you want to be a rider, a horse rider or a cowboy, here's where to buy a saddle at a great deal. Now, let me sell you a horse. So it's basically a situation where you teach somebody something or you provide something that automatically creates the need for what you're selling. But what you're giving away is so valuable and so good that people don't think, oh, this was just a come on for them to sell me something. They go, damn, that's good. I really want to do that. And so the next logical thing for me to do is go ahead and buy what they're selling so I can use what I just got here. So that's the first one. The second way to make them thirsty with content is to tell them what to do and why to do it, whatever it is, and then sell them how to do it. So an example of that would be, here are all the things you need to do to write a book. I create a webinar, I create a training on all the things you need to do to write a book. Step 1, you got to figure out who your target audience is. Step 2, you need to understand that you want to create this content instead of writing it. Step 3, you're going to create that content using an interview, using the phone. Step 4, you're going to create the cover, not yourself, but by ordering it off this website called Fiverr, and here's where you can go to order it. Step 5, you're going to actually have the interview that you do with a friend over the phone transcribed. Step 6, you're going to do a light edit. Step 7, you're going to send it off to somebody on Fiverr to get it formatted. And step 8, you're going to publish it on Amazon or CreateSpace. So those are all the things, those are the exact steps you need to go through to write a book. Now here's why you want to write a book and all the ways it can help you. It gives you credibility. It gives you authority over anybody else. You can use it as a business card when you're meeting people at trade shows. You can use it as a self-liquidating offer. You can use it as the front end of a funnel. You can use it to get more consulting clients, to get more speaking clients, to get more of anything. And that's why you want to write a book. Now that you know the steps you need to go through, you can either do it manually, or here's a piece of software that does all the steps for you, and it's called 3-Hour Kindle Book Wizard. Boom. What did I just do there? I just told you all the steps you need to go through for a book, and I can actually milk those steps out for about 45 minutes into an entire training, which I have done. And all that's going to make you want to do more is buy the software that I have that makes the whole process step by step by step. Now, here's the third way. Teach them all the steps leading up to what you want them to purchase. So an example would be, here's how to set up a funnel. Here are all the pages. Here's a share funnel. Here's everything you need to set up your funnel, your website, to be able to sell whatever it is you want to sell. Books, software, services, coaching, high-ticket items, whatever it is. Here are the exact tools. Here are the exact pages. Here's the exact structure. And in fact, I'll even give you 2 weeks free to use the tool. Now, the only thing you have left to do is to actually write the copy that you need on those pages, fully customized to whatever it is you're selling. And I'd like to tell you about a little thing called funnel scripts. So again, we could do an entire training showing people how to use, in this case, ClickFunnels to set up their funnel. We could show them all the different types of funnels that they could create to get subscribers, to make sales, to do a self-liquidating offer. I would painstakingly show them step by step by step by step how to use that, even giving them a dozen different funnels. Because once they get that funnel, what are they going to have to do? Ultimately, they're going to have to put words on the page or put together a script for a video that's going to make people actually buy. So what do? I show them funnel scripts. So that's the third way to do it. And the fourth way to make them thirsty with content is to teach them the manual or hard way to do something and then sell them the tools or the easy button to do it for them. This one works so well, this is almost like cheating, because this is like showing somebody, hey, here's how to dig a well with a shovel and a ladder, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, how to mark it off, how to measure it, how to hit the water table, how to do all these things. And when we get to the end, I'll say, oh, by the way, now you are fully capable of going and digging a well. But if you don't mind, I'd like to take 5 minutes to tell you about this thing we have called a backhoe that can scoop out 3 cubic yards of dirt, and instead of you having to dig this thing over the course of a week or 2 weeks by hand and risk serious injury with the thing collapsing in on you, I can show you how you can dig this thing in about 2 hours using this cool tool. Would you like to see it? So another example would be, here's how to build a website using HTML. So here's the way to hand code it. Here's how to do header tags, paragraph tags, line breaks, underline, bold, italics. Here's how to do it for free in an HTML editor. Or how would you like to let ClickFunnels do it all for you? And oh, by the way, you can automatically integrate with an autoresponder, a payment processor, upsells, and everything else you need to do. And in the time it takes you to code one page by hand in a text editor, you can have created your entire funnel and already be running traffic to it to see if it works or not. So the bottom line here is that you can give away a ton of content if you structure it the right way and still make people even more thirsty for what you're selling if you do it right. Okay, so I'm just curious, anybody, was this new for anybody? Had any of you guys heard all 4 of these ways of doing this before? I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break for a sec, but I was just curious. Tom and Carla says new for me. Apple says love it, new stuff. Rodney says new. Cool. So this was some new stuff. This is stuff that I've been using for 20 years, but have never taught exactly that way. So I was just curious. Lowell says, I've heard much of it, but put into perspective. Partly new, Ann said. Cool. All right, cool. So some people it's super new, other people just getting some perspective. Awesome. Okay, back to the show. Copywriting secret, your own swipe file. How to get your copywriting brain moving even when you don't feel like it. So whether you've heard of it or not, there's this thing that all copywriters have, or all copywriters who are worth their salt have, and it's called a swipe file. Now, what is a swipe file? A swipe file, and those are pictures of mine right there that occupies 2 full shelves on 2 of my bookcases. A swipe file is a collection of advertisements. It is a collection of postcards, direct mail, catalogs, everything, posters, flyers, anything that has to do with trying to sell somebody something. And typically in the past, it's all been built around direct mail or flyers or stuff that you would receive in print. Now, moving forward, you can develop a swipe file easily online and digitally, and I encourage you to do so. And we'll talk about that in just a sec. But why do you need one? Well, it's interesting that when you sit down to write sales copy, most people can't flip a switch and instantly start writing sales copy. It's kind of like when you go to start working out. Most people who understand anything about working out realize that any workout routine includes a warm-up. Something to get your blood going, something to get your muscles warmed up, something to get your juices flowing. And so writing copy is a lot about being in the proper mindset. So the way to quickly get into the mindset is to read good copy. Literally, just like if you want to start doing push-ups, you do push-ups. You'll do 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, doing a pyramid to warm up. If you want to get your mind going as far as copywriting, you start reading copy, whether it's copy you've written that's worked well in the past or swipe file copy. So if you need to write some headlines, you can read some headlines. And it's a way to get those patterns flowing. Now, how does it help you? It gets your mind warmed up with patterns that you know work, because obviously you're not going to have stuff in your swipe file that didn't grab your attention, or you don't know for a fact that it's actually working to get people results. So it helps you, just like the warm up with working out. Now, who should have a swipe file? Well, everybody should have a swipe file. And if you're reading this, you obviously need a swipe file. So how do you keep it? Well, there's two ways. You can do it digital or you can do print. Now, digital is something in the last 10, 15 years. It's actually really, really easy to create a digital swipe file. You simply just capture screenshots of things that you see that you like, or save the web page, or however you choose to do it. I use a program called Snagit by a company called Camtasia, or excuse me, called TechSmith. They also make another piece of software that I use religiously called Camtasia. But what Snagit does is it allows me to capture everything from just a single image to an entire scrolling web page. And so I can save those in folders, and I can save them in subfolders like ads, headlines, calls to action, stories, bullets. And so I can look at those and flip through them real fast on my screen when I want to get my warm up. And the print, obviously you can see from those pictures, I just have them in what amounts to a horizontal stack, because they used to just be in a vertical stack. And my wife said, you know, that looks pretty crummy in here. So I relented and cleaned up. So that's basically how you keep it. And you can organize it. I have stuff organized into emails, headlines, sales letters, my own stuff, other people's stuff. I've even bound together some things with a comb binder. You don't have to do that. But how do you use it? Basically, you just use it as a mental tickle file every time you need to do something. And so if you need to write headlines, you look at headlines. If you need to write bullets, you look at bullets. If you need to write a sales letter, you look at sales letters. And interestingly enough, funnel scripts started out actually as my personal interactive swipe file. I made that software for me to be able to use. I had no intention actually of selling it to anyone. It was my own little secret weapon that I could use to create content or to create sales copy for webinars or special offers or product launches or emails, where it used to take me 2, 3, 4 hours to put stuff together, or 2, 3, 4 days. Now I was doing something that used to take hours in about 15 or 20 minutes. And it really did feel like cheating. So when do you add to your swipe file? And that's a great question. And the answer is whenever you see something that grabs your attention. I still remember I saw a video game magazine on the front row in Books A Million in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was the PlayStation magazine, which they don't publish anymore. But one of the bullets was the Grand Theft Auto Vice City secrets you're not supposed to know. And I saw that, and my brain immediately replaced the Grand Theft Auto Vice City secrets with ebook marketing. And I use that headline, the ebook marketing secrets you're not supposed to know, to help launch a 6-figure website. And I'll never forget that. I still remember the cover. The picture on the cover was it was a cartoon, but it was a woman that was eating a Tootsie Pop. And it was a very provocative cover. It grabbed my attention, of course. But it was at the Grand Theft Auto Vice City secrets you're not supposed to know. And so anytime you see something, you see a cover on a magazine. And the cool thing now, back then, we didn't have smartphones. But now you have a smartphone. So if you see something that grabs your attention, standing in the bookstore, standing in line at the grocery store, you don't even have to buy the damn magazine or whatever it is. You can just take a picture of it and then email it to yourself and add it to your digital swipe file. So it's never been easier to create and maintain a swipe file. And finally, when should you start a swipe file? And the answer to that is right frickin' now. because if you don't have a swipe file, you have put yourself at a serious disadvantage. Now, of course, you can use funnelscripts.com, and I would highly encourage you to do that. However, having your own personal swipe file of everything from blog post titles to intros to paragraphs to just anything where you're writing copy or creating content can really, really help you to shortcut the process and also to save a ton of time. So that's the who, what, why, when, where, and how of having your own swipe file. So if you don't have one, you need one. If you do have one, use it. Copywriting secret, the magic desk. How to get inside the mind of your prospects to motivate and persuade them like never before. Now, here's a challenge that we all face. And that challenge is, how do we get out of our own head and into the mind of our prospects? And we know that this is a problem because, especially when we're writing copy or creating content, it's always easier for us to see other people and how they should be doing it than it is for us to see what we're doing in our own businesses or with our own copy. In other words, at least for me, and I know this holds true for a lot of people, and I suspect it holds true for you as well, it's a lot easier for you to spot the problems or the successes in other people's copy or in their content than it is to spot the problems or the angles in your own. And the reason for that is because you're too close to it. You can't get out of your own head. You can't see the forest for the trees. So what this cool exercise does is it literally helps you to get out of your own head and get into the mind of your prospects. And this works best after you've done research on your target market. You're not just going to yank this out of thin air. You have to know your target audience. Now, does that mean you have to have been in your target audience for the last 10 years? No, it helps if you have. But it also means that you can't just decide, oh, I'm going to go after the rocket scientist market and not know anything about rocket scientists, their problems, their questions, all the things that we covered when we talked about your customer avatar, Fred, in Another Secret. So this is something that you do after you have fully defined your customer avatar. So we're actually going to do this right now. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit in a quiet place and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide you through this. So if you're actually reading this right now, you'll probably want to read through it once and then get the idea and then go ahead and do it with your eyes shut. So this is the Magic Desk, a guided visualization exercise. So this is a technique that helps you get inside the mind of your prospects so you know exactly what they're thinking, and more importantly, how to give them exactly what they want in a way they want it and in terms that they can understand. And as you beginning doing this, all I ask is that you have an open mind. This is going to seem a little strange, especially if you've never done a visualization exercise or practiced creative visualization or meditation. I will also tell you that the technique I'm about to do my absolute best to teach you is a technique that I first used really out of desperation when I was having trouble writing a sales letter. And I stumbled across this technique by accident, but when I discovered it, boy, did it produce results. And actually in the space of about 6 hours, I used this technique to get in touch with my prospect. And I wrote a sales letter that made over $117,305 in about 19 months. And that money came as the result of selling something for just $29. And that doesn't take into account all of the back-end sales. So that's over 6 figures in $29 sales as a result of using this as a tool to get myself in the right mindset for writing copy. So all of this really came out of my ability to get inside the mind of my prospects. And so the point I want to make is that this technique produces results. And the reason it produces results is because it allows you to find out what your prospect or your boss or your spouse or your customer or your reader really, really wants. Now, why is this ability so critically important? Well, every person in the world has their mind tuned into one radio station and one radio station only. And it's got the call letters WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. And your ability to tune in to other people's radio stations will have a major impact on your success or failure in life, because no matter where you are in your life, no matter how much money you make, no matter how happy or sad you are, no matter your goals, your hopes, your dreams, or your desires, no matter whether you want more money, more love, more peace, more happiness, more satisfaction, you must be able to meet the needs of other people in a way that they want so you can get what you want. Satisfying other people's wants, whether it's emotional or financial or spiritual or any other wants, the way they want them satisfied is how you get what you want. It's not the other way around. So the bottom line is, to get what you want, you first have to know what other people want and give it to them in order to induce them to give you what you want. And if you want to change the economic or social or other circumstances of your life, other people will play a big part in helping you do that. So the number one objective of doing this is to raise your level of empathy with your customers or your prospects and tune in to their WIIFM, their What's in It for Me radio station. Now, the word empathy actually gets used incorrectly most of the time you see it or hear it. And Webster's defines empathy as a vicarious experience of the feelings, thoughts, or attitudes of another. Now, some people call it being in tune with another person or in sync. Whatever you call it, it basically means you are feeling and thinking what they feel and what they think. And by learning how to get into this state of empathy, this empathetic state quickly, you can massively improve your ability to communicate with other people. Now, maybe you've noticed this in yourself. I know I have. When I'm around somebody that I actually have a high level of empathy for, I start talking like them. I start taking on their mannerisms. I start actually, even in some cases, taking on their accent and their speech patterns and their thought patterns. And I noticed this about myself a long time ago, actually, when I was in a college at the fraternity house. And I saw myself doing that, and I never really understood why. And I certainly didn't understand the power of using it to motivate others until much later. Now, I also have a background in the theater. And looking back at my experiences there in being able to empathize with the person or with the character that you're playing is actually a big part of method acting. And that's what we want. We want to play the part of a customer so well that we end up becoming the customer and then having the customer tell us exactly what we want or what they want, and the words and the thoughts and the fears that they have that we can then in turn use to sell them. In fact, this technique is so powerful, you've got to be careful not to actually abuse it, because this technique teaches you to fully empathize with the customer, the prospect, or anyone else you want to motivate in some way. Because if you can get inside their minds, then you can feel their fear, and they know exactly what you have to offer them so they can feel more secure. So if you can get inside their mind and feel their pain, then you'll know exactly the kind of relief that they want. If you can get inside their mind and feel their problems, then you can offer solutions that speak directly to their brain. And one of the things a lot of people miss out on is if you can figure out what people are greedy about, and I like to call this emotional greed. If you can figure out what people are greedy about, what they really, really, really want, and they're afraid to admit it to people, they're afraid to admit it even to the people that are closest to them, then you can use that to offer them more of what they really, really, really want. So this exercise is going to help you not only get in touch with what they want, but also to get in touch with their fears, with their pain, with their problems, with their innermost desires, so you can help them get what they want. And your ability to do that is going to skyrocket your ability to communicate with these people and motivate them to take the actions you want. So that's really the background of this technique. I've used it to do all the things I've described to you, to figure out what people are scared of, to figure out what they really want. Now, one thing that makes this technique even more effective is to do it after you've done a lot of research about your prospects or customers. You've looked at the websites they go to, you've read the magazines they read, you've watched the TV shows they watch, you've seen the keywords they use when they search the internet. You've done a lot of intellectual research about your prospects, and you've got these ideas running around your head, but you still can't really connect with them on a gut level. That's the perfect time to do this exercise once you've done that type of research, because the more data you have about your target audience, the more effective this technique will be. And like anything, the more you practice it, the better you're going to get. So before we get started, just going to say on a side note, I'm not a hypnotist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just some guy who lives on a chicken ranch in southeastern Virginia who figured out a way to visualize and empathize with people. So if this is similar to something that other people teach, that's great. I'm a big believer in the universal idea principle, but one thing I can tell you is that this technique works for climbing inside the minds of your prospects. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want you to do is to make sure the phone is off the hook or the ringer's turned off. Make sure you have your cell phone on Do Not Disturb. Close your door. Make sure you're not going to be interrupted. If you're driving down the road, do not shut your eyes, okay? In fact, if you're driving down the road, you'll just want to come back to this later. And before you get started, I want you to have two things. Number one, I want you to have an open mind and a very relaxed mind. And number two, I want you to have a pen and paper or a tape recorder handy. I personally prefer a recorder. So I use my cell phone with a voice memo. So I'll just have that going when I'm doing this, because as you'll see, there are just going to be things that are coming out of you, stream of consciousness, that you're not going to want to be turning the microphone on and off. You just want to record the whole session. And the reason I prefer having a recorder is that because once you enter the mind of your prospect, you're going to be amazed at the stuff that comes out of you, that you start revealing about what that person wants. And you want to be able to capture that stuff, because when you start rattling it off, it's going to come up and out of your subconscious pretty fast, and you don't want to miss it. So again, having that recorder going, I'm literally recording a conversation that I'm having with myself. So another thing is that if I have a specific set of questions for my customer or prospect, I actually write those down ahead of time so that I can ask them to myself. It's going to sound weird, but it's just like an interview. And you don't want to have to think about what questions you want to ask after you've entered the mind of your prospect. So if you want to know what they're afraid of, if you want to know what they're excited about, if you want to know what their problems are with regard to something, then you want to have those questions written out ahead of time so they can serve as a guide. It also helps if you write out an intention for the interview. So as an example, of that would be, my intention for conducting this session is to really get in touch with my prospects' major problems and fears when it comes to writing their own book. So before you begin, just make sure that you're seated comfortably, you have the pen and paper or the recorder handy. If you have the specific questions, make sure they're written out ahead of time so you don't have to worry about what to ask. Make sure you have enough space to write, or your battery is charged up on your phone. And then what I like to do is I like to count backwards from 10, and then slowly 9, almost like you're hypnotizing yourself, then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, with your mind totally relaxed, feeling completely at ease and safe, make sure your eyes are closed, and I want you to visualize yourself sitting in a very big, comfy chair behind this huge desk. And it's a very ornate desk. It's made out of teak wood or some other really tropical and exotic wood. And you're sitting behind this desk just feeling completely relaxed, completely, totally content. And across the room, you see a door. And then I want you to imagine that through that door comes somebody who turns out to be your ideal prospect. And they have a very concerned look on their face. They have a problem that they know you can solve. And so they're here to consult with you because they know you're really good at understanding their innermost wants and needs and desires and problems. And so they come into the room and they take a seat across from you at the desk. And they're very upset and they're speaking really rapidly. And though they're really animated and talking, you remain very calm and still. And as they're speaking and telling you about their problems and all the stuff that they want to solve and their desires that are in their heart, all of a sudden their voice starts to fade and you realize that without effort, you're actually getting up out of your chair and you start to go around the desk and you look back and you see that you're still sitting in your chair, and you realize that it's not you getting up, but it's your mind that has come up and out of your body. And as you glide around the desk, you're still perfectly calm. Everything's cool. You get behind the person, and while they're still talking and talking and talking, and gradually you move closer and closer and closer to them until all of a sudden in your ears, you hear their voice. And you're looking out through their eyes and you realize that you are literally inside the mind of your prospect. And you listen to what they say and you see yourself across the desk. And you notice that you actually physically are feeling their fears. You're feeling their problems. You're feeling their desires. And it's this big jumbled mass. And you can probably feel it in the pit of your stomach. And then from the other side of the desk, that's you still over there, you start asking them the questions on the paper. And because you've connected so completely with the mind of your prospect, it just starts flowing out of you. So the you on the other side of the desk literally starts asking questions. And the you inside the prospect answers those questions. And you capture everything into your recorder or right there on the paper. And some of the questions you can ask yourself that will lead to the kind of insight that you're looking for are questions like, what are you really afraid of? And what does that mean if that happens? So if you weren't worried about anyone judging you, how would you describe that fear in words that anyone could understand? What is your deepest desire for your life right now? What objectives do you have for your business, or in building a subscriber list, or in setting up your next funnel, or in trying to reach financial freedom? If I could provide that for you, what would you have to see, or what would I have to say to motivate you to have a burning desire for what I have to sell? What words would you use to describe what I'm selling or what I have to offer? And how could I express that better in a way that would resonate with you? How much do you want what I'm selling? How could I make you want what I'm selling more? What objections do you have to what I'm selling? And tell me what I can show you or tell you to overcome those objections? What would stop you from getting the results that I'm promising you can get? Tell me what I could do to sweeten the pot on my offer or my product or my service so that you would feel totally comfortable and eager to take advantage of it before I change my mind. As you look at my competitors, what have you seen that you really, really like, that got you excited and that you wanted to buy from them right now? What do I need to show you or prove to you that would turn you from a prospect into a customer who does business for me or who does business with me? What do you think is a fair price for what I have to sell? What else can you tell me that will make what I have to offer even more appealing to you? What other problems or objections do you have that I may not even be aware of or don't realize are very important to you? And so once you've finished with the questions, it's time to draw the interview to a conclusion. Now, you don't just open your eyes because that'll jar your mind. You want to slowly pull back from your prospect and you want to pull yourself out the back of them. And you find yourself floating peacefully and slowly back around the desk. And you find yourself gently floating back down into yourself. And then you both sit there very quietly, just looking at each other and knowing that you've been totally honest and open and complete in your communication with each other. And their whole demeanor has changed since they entered the room. They're calm, they're cheerful, and they feel better because they know you've made a real effort to understand their problems, their wants, and their desires. And then with a big smile on your face and a big smile on the face of your ideal prospect, they calmly get up and walk out the room and shut the door. Now, with your eyes still shut, you slowly start coming back, feeling totally refreshed and at peace. And you come back up 10, 9, 8, feeling more awake, 7, 6, 5, feeling totally refreshed, 4, 3, 2, 1, open your eyes. So once you've completed this exercise, you're going to have some information and some insight that you can use. And I've had situations where I've had total revelations of, oh my gosh, I've been looking at this completely the wrong way. Or I've had situations where I just got one little tiny inflection, one word, one bit of pivot in the English that I was using to explain something that can make a huge difference. But I've never done this exercise and not come away without some valuable insight to help me better understand and be more empathetic towards the people that I'm trying to sell. So you can use this to understand how to better relate to your prospects and meet their needs. You can use this to help create sales copy that speaks directly to their wants and desires. You can modify your own behavior when it comes to dealing with them in virtually any situation, especially on social media where people can tend to really piss you off. And it's nice to be able to draw on some level of empathy, which creates patience. You can create a sales talk, a webinar, a phone script, or any other type of interaction that's more in sync with what's going on in their head. And you can massively increase your understanding of what the other person wants and simply just sell it to them. Now, I can personally tell you that if you do this, the insight you're going to get as you practice it more and more and more is going to be worth so much money to you because you're able to get really inside their mind and use the words they use and give yourself the information that you're looking to motivate them. So the big thing I would tell you is don't get attached to your ego saying like, man, this is weird, or this is kind of stupid, or this is kind of creepy, because this really is a proven technique. Just use it. Don't get hung up on it. And the other thing to remember is that the connection you can make with your customers all starts in your mind. And for those of us who sell through the internet, this is going to sound kind of woo-woo, but if you think about it, you're just transmitting thoughts from your mind through your screen and keyboard, through the internet to their screen and keyboard, and those thoughts are what get people to buy, sign up, take action. So it's really all about just having that connection, and that connection starts in your mind. And it's your mind. You can play whatever games you want. So if you feel stodgy or this is weird, then it's stodgy and it's weird and it won't work for you. But if you're open and you just try to empathize and visualize through the eyes of your customer, you can use this exercise when you're crafting headlines, when you're trying to figure out bullets, when you're trying to figure out a story, when you're trying to write a sales letter, whatever you're trying to do to suck people in and get them to take the action you want them to take. So I use it all the time, seriously. This for me really is unconscious now. I'll just stop, drop, and literally visualize this. And so there you go. This exercise is going to help you literally with the old saying of never judge a man until you walk a mile in his shoes. Well, now you can do more than just walk a mile in his shoes. You can literally enter his mind and know exactly what he's thinking. Copywriting secret. Love me, hate me, there's no money in the middle. Now, this is a fun one for me because this is the one where you can create your persona or your personality on purpose. And people often buy from a personality or a persona more easily than they will buy from some nameless company. That's why nameless companies or companies with big names often have spokespeople. Why? Because you can't really have a relationship with a company or with a logo, but you can have a perceived relationship or at least feel a certain way about a person. So everything from Ronald McDonald to Tom Bodett will leave the light on for you at Motel 6, to Sarah Peller, the little lady with Wendy's who said, "Where's the beef?" to all of these different characters that you've seen over the years. People buy more easily or are swayed more easily by a personality or a persona. Now, the fastest way to establish that persona is to take a stand. And so that means you need to have a position or an opinion, and you need to be strong about it. And that's really where the saying of love me, hate me, there's no money in the middle came from. I'll tell you who I heard it from. I know he heard it from someone else. Who knows who said it first. But what it means is that people who are in the middle don't make any money because they're so busy trying to placate everybody across the spectrum that they never do anything noteworthy to any particular group. If you think about politics, why are there so few independents in virtually any political system? And here in the United States, we have a two-party system and have for a couple hundred years. The names of those parties have changed a few times, and the positioning of those parties has flip-flopped a couple of times. But the bottom line is that it's an us versus them mentality. That's how people are wired. Doesn't have to be right, doesn't have to be wrong. It's just the way it is. You're either with us or you're with them. You're either with me or you're with them. And so the objective here is to pull people close to you. And that's the love me. But the cool thing is that if you force people to make a decision about you, there will be people who hate you for whatever reason. They hate the tone of your voice, the cut of your suit, the fact that you're too fat, too fit, too tall, too short. They don't like your mustache, whether you're a lady or a man. Whatever reason they don't like you. The funny thing is, the people who hate you will still pay attention and buy from you. That's the weirdest thing of all. I have people who hate my guts who buy from me. They don't know me personally. I mean, if they did know me personally, they could still hate my guts. But they hate me, but they still buy from me. Why? Because they love to hate me. And the stuff they buy from me pisses them off even more, and they're looking to tear it apart in order to feel better about the fact that they don't like me. Just like the people who buy my stuff, who love me, buy my stuff, pay for my services, belong to my monthly coaching, whatever it is, they buy it because they love me and they want to feel close to me. You can do the exact same thing. But if you want people to do it in a way that gets you results, you have to force people to make a decision about you. And the way you do it is in your content and in your sales copy. You do it by taking a position and being consistent about what your message is, about what your methods are, about what your opinions are, about who you like and who you don't like. Even though we don't ever talk smack about people by name, we can talk about behavior. We can talk about practices. We can talk about methods. And so you need to have a position. This is right. This is wrong. This is good. This is bad. This works. This doesn't work. These are the kinds of things where you need to give people an opinion, a strong opinion, because they don't know. They're looking for a leader. They're looking for someone to blaze the trail for them. They're looking for someone to tell them, this will burn your hand, little Johnny. Don't put your frickin' hand on the stove. Or, hey, Sally, this little bunny rabbit is soft and fluffy and will make you feel wonderful if you pet it. They're looking for someone to tell them the truth, to give them the right story, to give them guidance, and to be consistent about it. That's why people get so irritated with people that always have the newest, greatest thing of the week, and why those types of marketers or sellers or promoters have to spend more time trying to replenish their list than they should, because they're always coming out with the next greatest thing. So you need to be consistent. Now, that doesn't mean you should be afraid to change direction. If the world changes, if circumstances change, if something comes about that makes you change your opinion, then you need to be able to tell people, hey, I've changed my opinion about this. I've changed my practice. But don't be wishy-washy. Don't be like the wave on the ocean getting tossed around. You need to stand strong. But I'll tell you a quick example. For many, many years, we did article marketing. That was our main way of getting traffic to our websites. Every week, I would create an article, and we would use this service called Submit Your Article, I believe was the name of it. And it would put your article in all these different announcement sites all over the web, including this site called eZine Articles. And this was a way to get just thousands and thousands of visitors a week. That was the only thing I taught, really, as far as getting traffic. One day, it stopped working. Google changed their algorithms. They stopped counting all those articles. People were doing spammy articles and other things like that. Stopped working. Instead of trying to milk it and tell people, well, it may come back, I came out and said, you know what? This isn't working anymore. So we need to figure out something else. And luckily at that time, blogging was coming along and other ways to promote your content. But you can't be afraid to change direction, but you can't be changing your direction all the time. And I like to give credit where credit is due. I heard this saying of love me, hate me, there's no money in the middle from a guy named Matt Fury. I was actually at a mastermind meeting in Tampa, Florida in February of 2003. Matt got up to give a talk to the group, and he looked at me and he said, I just bought your book and you're selling it way too cheap. And my eyes got wide because he's a pretty impressive, physically impressive guy. And he told me that I was selling my stuff too cheap. I said, this guy makes you make an opinion about him. And that's right. I don't know why I had that thought. And then he said, the other thing that's made a big difference in my business is operating by the philosophy of love me, hate me, there's no money in the middle. And it just floored me. And I'll never forget hearing that for that first time and what a dramatic impact it's made in my business, because this philosophy has given me the courage to stand up to people who were saying things that weren't true. It gave me the courage to change direction. It's given me the courage to share my opinion, because I know that if I just try and please everybody all the time, nothing good's going to come from it. So when it comes to your copy, when it comes to your content, always remember, love me, hate me, there's no money in the middle. Have an opinion, have a strong opinion, stick with your opinion. Don't be afraid to change if the world proves you need to change. And just be a consistent character, persona for the people who are paying attention to you. Copywriting secret: the hardest draft you'll ever write. And of course, the hardest draft is the first draft. Now, why is the first draft the hardest draft? And I want you to imagine now that you're quite busy, that you have a bunch of things and tasks and people and priorities fighting for your attention. And then I want you to imagine that someone comes along and says, oh, I need you to write a sales letter for me and it needs to be done by 5 o'clock. What? I need you to write an email for me and I need it done in the next 10 minutes. What? And that's basically what we're doing to ourselves when we sit down to write copy, because there's never a great time to write copy. There's not. There's always something you'd probably rather be doing. And then, how do most people try and write copy? Well, we sit down at the computer, we turn the computer on, we open our word processor, and we stare at the blinking cursor. Blink, 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 blink. And we think, how in the world am I going to go from this blank screen to a sales message or to a headline or to a sales letter or a video sales letter script? How in the world am I going to do that? And I have an answer for you. And the answer is, we need to think in chunks and we need to write in chunks. So thinking about a sales letter is nothing more than a series of chunks. In fact, in another secret, I taught you the formula for a sales letter, and it's nothing more than a series of chunks. So the number one way is to not think, hey, I got to write a sales letter, but to think, hey, I need to create a series of chunks to create whatever it is that I need to make. So in the case of a sales letter, first I'm going to need a headline. Then I'm going to need a couple bullets. Then I'm going to need an intro. Then I'm going to need to do problem, agitate, solve. Then I'm going to need a description of my product. Then I'm going to need some bullets about my product. Then I'm going to need to tell them a little bit about myself. Then I'm going to need to prove that what I'm telling them works. Then I'm going to need to give them some bonuses to sweeten the pot. Then I'm going to need to build up the value and the price and then have a price drop. Then I'm going to need to have a call to action. Then I'm going to need to have a summary of what it is that I'm offering. Then I'm going to need to have a conclusion. Then I'm going to need to have a PS where I sum everything up and send them back to the call to action. Yes, that's a bunch of parts. But when you think about it in terms of parts, instead of thinking about it as this giant whole, then it's more manageable. An email is chunks. An email is basically a subject line. It's a salutation. It's a problem, agitate, solve, and the solve is on the other side of a click. So a video sales letter is nothing but a series of chunks. It's your grabber on the front. It's a problem, agitate, solve, 5 reasons, or introduce the solution, 5 cool bullets about the solution, 3 reasons to act now, call to action. So this is where also your swipe file comes in mighty, mighty handy. Because again, the first draft is the hardest because you're looking at a blank sheet. Don't look at a blank sheet. Look at copy that's worked. Look and see how you can adapt sales letters you've written before, sales letters other people have written, headlines other people have written, bullets other people have written, calls to action other people have written. Use your swipe file to get your mind going. And quite frankly, that's why we invented funnel scripts. Because with funnel scripts, all you have to do is fill out a form, whack a button, and copy and paste. It takes away the blinking cursor and makes it as easy as just answering some questions. And if you've done the things I've taught you in the other secrets, specifically the magic desk, filling out those forms in funnel scripts is easy and fun. But the thing you need to remember is that all sales copy jobs are just combinations of building blocks or chunks. So a sales letter is basically a headline package, your sales story, your bullets, your guarantee, and your call to action. Are there other little minute parts in there? Of course. But if you think about these main building blocks, it takes away the fear or the anxiety of how in the world am I going to write a big sales letter. When we think of email teasers, it basically comes down to a subject line. You intro the problem, you stimulate desire, and you have a call to action, which is click this link for more information. You never sell from an email. I have never seen anybody successfully sell a product from an email where the link was just to an order form. Has it been done? I'm sure it has. But 999 times out of 1,000, your email's only purpose is to get people to click through to something else. Video sales letter script. Basically, you have a headline or the first words out of your mouth. You stimulate the desire or you exacerbate the problem. You use bullets to build pressure, and you have a call to action. The hardest draft you're ever going to write is the first draft. That's why you want to use your swipe file to stimulate yourself. And again, that's why we invented funnel scripts. So once you get something down on paper, it's 100 times easier to edit and rewrite than it is to write from scratch in the first place. So your number one job when you're sitting down to create a piece of sales copy is to get the first version done as fast as you can. Because once you have something down on paper or on your screen, it gets a lot easier because your mind says, oh, I should say this. I shouldn't say that. Let's move this here. Let's put this here. Oh, we need to have a guarantee. Oh, we should show a picture here. Oops, we need to have this here. We need that there. And then your mind can start putting it all together. So understand the hardest draft you'll ever write is the first draft. So the key to your success is getting past the first draft as fast as you can. Cool. Well, that's it. What'd you guys think? Next week we'll do Q&A. But did you enjoy that? And do you have any thoughts or comments or anything? Apple says titanium. All right. So I'll just ask you one last thing. Just like I had before, if you could just share with me in the Q&A box real quick, and then please go share it on social media. What would you say to somebody who wasn't here that missed this about your experience with the Copywriting Secrets Masterclass and the specifically the content that I've delivered for you? Because I'm going to need some blurbs and stuff. And so if you wouldn't mind just sharing that, that would be great. Lowell says, OMG, I just realized that what you've been saying today is exactly what I used to do at the end of the purchasing agent career to justify budgetary items. There you go. Cindy says, great info. Michael says, love the simple guided meditation. William says, you need to watch this series. Christopher says, telling someone you can manually learn this, or you can buy a gimmick or product from me that will show you how. Fast track way. And then they'll buy it, learned a lot more. Cool. Marianne says, you missed the best, smartest content in copywriting. It's getting me out of my writer's block. Awesome. Michael says, funnel scripts works. It really works. That makes me think of Sally Fields. You like me. You really like me. Apple says, the visual exercise for writing opened a powerful new way to clearly write the content you need for your online business. Tom says, best class so far. This is the best content about successful copywriting I've been through in a class. Thanks, Tom. Tom says, you're selling your product too cheap. Apple says, the best copywriting course content I've ever attended. Awesome. Thank you. Cool. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. We are, of course, going to be doing our questions Lollapalooza. Paul says, get your mind all bumped to organize to get immediately pumped up routine to get productive. Cool. But we're going to be answering a bunch of questions. I'm going to answer them rapid fire next time. And I just want to get through as many of them as I can. Okay, so I appreciate you guys being here. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I will look forward to seeing you guys next week to wrap this up. Brad says, copywriting is clearly an art, and Jim Edwards' Copywriting Masterclass nails that art. Hugely eye-opening and a necessity for anyone selling online or anywhere. Wow, thanks, Brad. That's awesome. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hell, that's something that'll go on the front page when we're selling that. So thank you, Brad. That's great. Appreciate that. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. So I appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.